Most Claude Code tutorials throw 50 features at you: MCP servers, subagents, hooks. And guess what happens? You end up being paralyzed before you even start. And here's what nobody tells you: you only need these 7 things in order to get started. Everything else is just noise. I use Claude Code daily in my AI consultancy, building AI implementations for businesses. And I teach over 400 members inside my community how to do the same. And in this video, I'm breaking down the 7 essentials I use, the ones that let you build real apps without touching 80% of the features. And guess what? No technical background needed. Just the 7 things and you're ready to go. Anyways, enough of the talking. Let's get into it. What really is Claude Code? Claude Code, in simple terms, broken down to its first principles, is just a coding assistant. Basically, you talk to it, it writes the code for you. You don't need to learn any syntax. You don't need to learn any terminal commands or anything. Just speak to it and it writes the code for you. That is it. And how do you use Claude Code? In order for you to use Claude Code, you need to have the Claude Pro subscription and above. And here is a quick breakdown of how the pricing works. The pricing is mainly broken down based on usage tiers. So there are 3 different ones. We can see here there's the first one, which is the Pro plan, which costs about $20. And I would recommend this plan if you have never vibe coded in your life. You're just looking to test things out and experiment and see what you can create and the capabilities of the Claude Code itself. But this one in particular is more than enough, actually, because you get a lot of usage, surprisingly. If you use the lower tier models like Sonnet and Haiku, even though they might seem lower tier models, they are actually good. And the next one is Max, which costs about $100, and in simple terms is just 5 times the usage of the Pro plan. And I would recommend you use this plan if you already vibe code or you use AI to code for you, maybe on Cursor or Windsurf, Lovable or Visio. If you're familiar with those terms and you're used to using those softwares in particular, I would recommend using the Max plan. Then after the Max plan, we have the Max 20, which is basically 20 times the usage of the Pro plan and 4 times the usage of the Max 5 plan, which is $200. But I would only recommend that you upgrade to this one. The reason why I say upgrade is that I recommend that you start with this $100 one. Then if you encounter limits, then you should upgrade to the $200 one. And encountering usage limit is completely normal, so don't freak out. And you might say, how does the usage actually work? So let me break it down for you, because when I first got into this, it was a bit confusing for me. So let me just break it down in simple terms the way that I understood it. So the usage is broken down into 2 key parts. There's the weekly usage, and then there's the 5-hour session usage. And what it is in simple terms is that every day you're given 5-hour sessions. So you can complete your usage that you're allocated for that 5-hour session, and then you continue on to the next one. And let's say, for example, you finish the usage that you were allocated during your 5-hour session within the first 2 hours of that session, which means you have to wait for the next 5-hour session. And if you do not complete it, you simply just continue using your thing without even realizing that there is a session. And depending on how many sessions you complete across that particular week, your weekly usage limit racks up, basically. Sometimes you might finish it on the 2nd day of the week, or 3rd day, or 4th day, or 5th day, or sometimes you might never even finish it. So that is basically how it works in simple terms. And usage is basically a calculation of how many tokens you use when you use Claude Code or the Claude.ai website itself, because usage is not just for Claude Code, it is for all of the Claude.ai services. But don't worry about the usage. Later on, I'll be explaining how you would be saving a lot of tokens so that your usage don't rack up, in order for you to not finish your sessions and finish your weekly limits before you even get through half of the week. So now, how do I even get started with Claude Code? First things first, subscribe a subscription plan. Once you do that, we would have to use this in an IDE because normally people do use it inside the terminal, but I want to make this beginner friendly, so I don't want to scare you off. So what I would recommend is Google Anti-Gravity IDE, which is basically a fork of VS Code. So if you do use VS Code, this is exactly the same. So I would recommend you download it for your operating system and then you go ahead and install it. It's completely free. On top of that, Anti-Gravity is an agentic IDE, or should I say an AI IDE, similar to Cursor. So in the cases that your usage finishes up, you can default back to the anti-gravity models, which provides not just the Claude models, but the Gemini model, which are extremely good at front end. Not just that, but also the OpenAI models and the OpenAI open source models. So you can see here, once you have it installed, we're going to come and open the application here, and you can see this is the anti-gravity AI, but we're not going to be using that. We're going to install the extension of Claude Code for VS Code so that we have a beginner-friendly UI that we can interact with Claude Code through. So once you're in the anti-gravity application, you want to come over here, click on extensions, then search for Claude Code. Come on here, and then you would want to install it. And once you have it installed, and for any file that you open, which I'll be showing you in a bit, all you have to do is just click on here and you can see. You can just type in your request here and you can use Claude Code. But before you're brought here, if this is your first time running Claude Code on your computer, you'll be asked to log in with your Anthropic account, which is just straightforward and there is no hassle. All you have to do is just log in and that's it. And in case you're wondering, I'm logging in with my Anthropic account and there might be some issues with credentials or I might get hacked. Well, this extension itself is supported by Anthropic, which you can see here, so there are no issues. And before we get into coding, there's one important step that we have to do that most people leave out, and that is the Claude.md file. Because the way Claude works is that when you start a new project, there is a default folder that it reads, and then it sees your preferences, for example, like the coding language you use, how you set up your backend and stuff along those lines. But if you're not a programmer, I've got you covered, don't worry. I have a Claude.md file that just gets the job done. It makes Claude Code much better, and it's super high level. It's straight up in plain English, and I'll show you here how you can add it to your own Claude Code directory. So what you want to do is come over to Finder here, and what you want to search for is .claude folder, which will be in your root directory. Once you're here, you will find the Claude.md folder here. And once I open it here, you can see it is just 19 instructions. And also, the Claude.md doesn't have to be in any programming language. It can be straight up English, which you can see here. So I have 19 instructions, which you can screenshot and add it to your own Claude.md folder, which I just showed you how you can access. And in case you don't want to screenshot and copy all of this, you can click the first link in the description below and join my community where you can get access to this thing exactly. And the importance of this is that it's going to make a massive difference because we do not have to keep on re-explaining ourselves to Claude every single time we start a new project. Anytime we initiate a session, it looks through the Claude.md and it knows exactly what our preferences and what it's supposed to do and what it's not supposed to do. So it just makes the job way faster. Once we have the Claude.md set up, there's one more thing we have to set up. I promise all these things we're setting up are just the bare minimum and are just going to save you a lot of time and make your project even 10x better. And this thing, maybe you might know it by now, is Claude Skills. And the skill in particular that we'll be installing is the front-end design skill. Now let me quickly explain what a Claude skill is. A Claude skill is basically a packaged explanation of a certain domain knowledge that you're basically passing on to Claude so that it has that domain knowledge. It might be how you do your work. It might be something about marketing or anything. Once you give it to Claude and you explain to Claude when to call upon this particular skill, it will call it automatically. So for this front-end design skill, it was made officially by the Anthropic team so that we don't end up with AI slop-looking interface that has multiple color gradients that just looks so unpleasant. So let me quickly show you how you install that. So we want to come over here
you want to create a new folder. Then Korean coding project, call this tutorial. Code, you can name it anything and create the directory in any location on your computer. It doesn't matter. So and then click on open here, and once you're brought here, this is just a quick trick that I use to basically open this, because I still haven't found a way to open this normally. So I have this open here. What we are going to do is just click on slash, and then you want to click on plugins here. Then you want to click on continue in terminal. Don't get scared, I promise. And just click on yes to proceed. And then what we are going to search for, once this comes up, is that we want to search for the front design, which you can see here, which is the first one. But if you can't find it, in order for you to navigate through this, all you have to do is use your arrow key to go down. And if you want to switch across from discover to installed, all you have to do is click on tab, which you can see here. I have the front end design skill downloaded. So what you want to do is just come over here, and you can also move up so that you can search for the skill. But here we have it, and all you have to do is just click on this, and then you can see you are given multiple options, whether that be installed for you, or installed just for the project, or installed for you and in this repo only. What I would recommend is installed for you, which would get applied to all of your projects. So just click on that, and once you have that installed, we're finally ready to go, and we can get started with programming, or should I say the programming flow that is completely easy. If you can communicate and have a conversation, you can build whatever you want. As long as you have the idea in your head, you're good to go. Once you have this ready to go, all you have to do is just click on X here, and click on terminate, and we're ready to go. So in order for us to start building, let me quickly close this agent tab before it confuses you. That agent is for anti-gravity. And if you want to open it, all you have to do is just click on here, and you can see it. And if you want, it's the same interface as the Claude code. Let's say you've gotten to your usage limit, you can just come back here and continue using the anti-gravity agent. And you can see here you get access to the Gemini model, so the Claude model, and then the GPT open source model. But we are not going to be using this agent. What we are focusing on is Claude code. So in order for us to start programming, we need to do one thing, but this is all part of the programming flow, and you need to be doing this every time you want to program. But we are not installing anything. This already comes with Claude code, which if you click on here, you can filter through, and you would find something called plan mode. And what plan mode is, in simple terms, is just basically your thinking partner before you even start programming. Because what most people do is that they just type in build me a task tracking application, and the AI will just go ahead and build whatever it decides to build based on the term build a task tracking application. But what plan mode does is that it asks you clarification questions so that it understands what type of task tracking application you want to build, so that once it builds it, it is closer to your expectations, rather than you just say build me a task tracking application and it builds something that you were not expecting at all. And all you have to do is just click on plan mode here and give in your prompt. And this first step is part of the build loop, which is basically plan, build, test, and iterate basically. So what we are going to do now is that we're going to plan. Then after we're done planning, Claude will build the application based on the plan that he created. After that, we'll test it ourselves. Then if we see anything we don't like, we will tell Claude again, and then go into plan to fix it, then build, then we'll test again until we reach our desired expectations. So here we're just going to tell Claude, build me a task tracking application with a Kanban style. Okay, good. And just click on send here. And you can see here what it's doing first is that it's going to the directory to see if there are any existing files. So if let's say you already have an already existing application that you have coded somewhere else and you want to continue using Claude code, it can gather all of the context needed, which is basically what it's doing here. And here you can see it's going to ask me questions to clarify the requirements before it builds the comprehensive plan. And we can see here I get asked which technology stack I want to use. It even gives me the recommended one. So I'm just going to choose the recommended one. And you can see here whether we want to use a database or we want to use the local storage, which is the browser-based one. So we'll just choose that and drag and drop and just click on submit answers, and you can see it's easy. I told you if you can have a conversation, you can get it done. So now what it's going to do, it's going to launch the plan agent so that it can design the implementation approach, basically. So as I said, it's doing all of the heavy lifting for you so that when it comes to building, maybe the first shot of it building it going to be looking extremely good. And you can see here too as well, it's also doing some web search to see the best practices for the frameworks that it chose for the application. Another thing, while it's doing the planning, is let's say if you want to open another tab for Claude Code and run another command for the same application you're building, all you have to do is just come on here and you can start another conversation. So you can see we have two conversations running at the same time. And here I'm going to explain the usage saving trick that I said I would explain earlier. So the trick is basically using Haiku for implementation, which is 90% as good as Sonnet 4.5, but 3 times cheaper. So if you're on the Pro plan, this is what I would recommend. And one thing that Anthropic does that is really good is that when it comes to planning, it uses the model that is much better, which is Sonnet 4.5. But when it comes to implementation, it uses Haiku 4.5 because most of the work has been done during the planning, and the planning was done by the better model. So for example, if you use by default, let's say you choose Haiku, it's going to default to Sonnet 4.5 for plan mode. And for example, let's click on switch model here. And if you were to choose Sonnet 4.5, it's going to use Opus, which is the frontier model by Anthropic for planning, but then it's going to use Sonnet 4.5 for implementation. I would recommend this selection if you are on the Max 5 plan. However, if you are on the Max 20 plan, you can go ahead and use Opus 4.5. But that is basically the usage saving trick that I promised I would explain, and it really saves a lot of token for you, and you would realize sometimes you don't even come across usage limits. You can see here it's still planning and it just finished. So it tells us to review the plan above and decide whether to proceed. So what we are going to do is that we're going to see everything. You see, it even creates the project structure. Does everything I told you. You can see here. So it just did most of the work. And you can see here we have a verification checklist. And once you go through everything and we're happy, what we have to do is just click on yes, auto accept, and it's going to go ahead and start implementing now using in Haiku 4.5. All you're going to be doing is just clicking on yes. And once it's done implementing everything, I'm going to show you the results. And also one thing with that, you can see here, it also creates a to-do. So it goes through each of the to-do and checks it. And by the time it's here, it basically means it's done, which means we can test it out. And I also added in the Claude.md, it should always add a to-do. For example, when we're fixing, it should always create a to-do. So we're kind of replicating how the plan would works, but adding it to our Claude.md so that when it comes to fixing the application, it's actually thinking through the process so that it would fix it for us, not just us going back and forth. Fix this. So we're just going to end up wasting our time. What we can see here, it's going ahead and implementing, and it's going through the to-do, which is actually fast. But one of the pros of using Claude Code is that it is extremely fast. But anyways, once this is done, I would come back and we would review and see how it performed. Now it just finished and it's going to create the documentation. Wow. And I explicitly stated in my Claude.md that all documentation should be in a folder called /docs so that it would all be organized, because normally what Claude Code does is that it will just put the documentation here and it just spoils the structure of the project itself, and it makes everything organized. It might be my OCD brain that hates that, but I prefer when everything is organized. So now it's just writing the readme.md architecture, the MD. And one thing also Claude Code does, that it creates a lot of MD files. So get used to it. Even though I stated in the Claude.md that it doesn't need to create as much MD files as it thinks it needs to. Just create the ones that are needed. So here it just created 3, which we can see here. Can open it, and it shows us also how to run everything as well. But it's just finished, which we can see here. It said build complete. Wow. But what we are gonna do, and I've said is that this is beginner friendly, so we are gonna tell Claude Code to run the application for us, so that you can easily all you have to do is just click on this localhost link and view it. So run the application for me, please. And if you're wondering what localhost is, it's just a localhost on your local computer, so that you can access an application that you made, basically. But this link can only be accessible on your own local computer, not anyone. Because if you go ahead and share this link with someone else, it would not work. So this is just for testing purposes, and in order for you to deploy, I'll be showing you that in a bit. But for now, I hope you understand what localhost is, because it's quite common that people will just get this link and share it with people and thinking that they can view the application, when in retrospect they can't. So it just started the server for us. So all we have to do is just click on it here. Okay. That's the issue. So all we are gonna do, just gonna screenshot this and report it back to Claude. So we're just gonna do /attach. Alright, go to our desktop, click on it here, and just explain what you see. So when I click on the localhost link, I'm taken to my browser, but when I get to my browser, it's all plain white, as you can see in the screenshot. Could send here. So after I send that message, it came to the conclusion that I should do a hard refresh. Let me do that. So it even stopped. Then open the dev tool. Well, I can't. Okay, so when I did the hard refresh, it says that the site can't be reached. So I can't even open the dev tools if I was to do that. And you can see, if let's say the server was still up, because the server was down, that was why we can't access this, because you can see here the server crashed. Now it's going to start a new one. But if it was still up, which it will be up now in a bit, it gives us instructions on what to do. You can see here it says open the dev tools, click the console tab and take a screenshot for me, that you can see here. Just started the server again, and if you were to check, voila, you can see here, you can see the Kanban task tracker, you can see the to do, in progress and done. And if you were to click here, we can just test 1, post the video to more wall, add the task and wait. Okay, first issue. Okay, I don't think we can drag and drop. Wait, it did work, but it's a bit clunky. Let's try again. Okay, so it does work. Yeah, it does work. But there's one thing that we need to fix though. I do not like the way it looks. I don't like the gradients. So what we are gonna do is that we are gonna come back to Claude Code here and just tell it that we don't like how it looks. So I don't like the way it looks, the purple gradient. It just looks off. I need it to look good and premium, please. So I know what it's going to do. And also another thing that I need to highlight is that if you come here, you would find mine is set to edit automatically. So basically it edits and adds code to the files automatically. So it doesn't have to ask me for command, which saves me a lot of time, because sometimes I might be away where code is running. So it does that automatically. But if you have it here in ask before edit, it's always going to ask you before it edits a file. But I'm just going to keep it on edit automatically and just send this. Now I'm going to use the front-end design skill to make us a better UI. Let's see if it's actually better than the one we have here, or the new one that we would create. Okay, so I just implemented the changes, which we can see here. And now we're gonna come here and wow, okay, this looks much better. Yeah, this looks much better. Yeah. Okay. This has my approval. And now we've gotten our application to where we expect it to be. And as I've told you, using Claude Code isn't as hard or overwhelming as you may think it is. It's just easy, straight to the point. You can have a conversation and you have the idea in your head, you can create it. And all through this video, I didn't write a single code. All I had was a conversation with Claude Code and it created the application for me. This part is a bit unrelated to Claude Code, but it would make you have a better understanding when it comes to building application, which is what you'll be using Claude Code for. So I have this infographic here that quickly explains how an application is. So there's the front end, which is basically what the user actually sees. The front end was what we interacted with when we were testing the application. Before it had a purple gradient, then we asked Claude Code to change the color of the front end to something more premium. Then it changed it to white. Then we have the backend. The backend is basically where all of the data that the front end shows lives. So the backend is basically all the logic of how the data is handled and how it is also saved in a database. And a database is basically where you store information. And the most used one is basically Supabase because it's easy to use and it doesn't require as much technical knowledge as the other database solution. And it doesn't just provide us with a database, but it's the whole backend. So you can build your whole backend using Supabase and you can tell Claude Code to do that for you and it's going to go ahead and do it. And then finally is basically hosting. As I was explaining with the localhost link, if you want to make your application available on the internet by other people, obviously you'd have to host it on a hosting platform. And the most widely used one and the easy to use one is Vercel, which obviously too, if you tell Claude Code you'd like to host this application on Vercel, it's going to make the application ready to be hosted by Vercel. And all you have to do is that you're going to need to push your application to GitHub. Just think of GitHub like the Google Drive for your coding project. So it lives there and all you have to do is link it with your Vercel account and Vercel automatically recognizes your project and it just requires one click deploy and it's going to deploy that for you and you're going to have a link that anyone can access, not like the local host link. And also if you have a domain which is basically like google.com or x.com or youtube.com, you would like to have that for your brand, like your brand.com, you can buy a domain on Vercel and you can link it with that project so that if people want to access your application through your brand domain, you can do that easily. And that's it. That's the 7 essentials that cuts through the noise. No more feature overload, no more wasting credit, no more thinking you need to be technical first. And today I showed you everything you need in order to build starting today. Starting now, actually. So here's my challenge for you today. It doesn't matter what it is, go ahead and build something. But before you do that, let me know in the comments what you will be building. Then you can come back later and tell me how Claude Code performed. And if you want the exact Claude.md file that I showed that makes the building process and the end result much better, all you have to do is click the first link in the description below and join the Builders Lab community. Once you're there, you want to click on Tools and Resources, scroll all the way down and you would find the Claude.md template. All you have to do is just click on it here and you will be able to just copy and paste this and drop it into your Claude.md. Not just that, but you can get access to 50 other templates, which you can see here. And on top of that, weekly calls with me and the rest of the community, which has over 400 plus members, where you can ask me questions, get expert help, and also communicate with like-minded builders. And if you're a business and you need an AI strategy set in place, let's say you're lost in this AI world, well, you've come to the right place. Click the second link in the description below and you can book a strategy call with my team and we'll get you started with that. Anyways, that's all from me today. Hope you like this one and I'll see you in the next one.